Ladies and gentlemen, this is wrestling's last journeyman, the pride of Tater Peeler, Tennessee, and, if I do say so myself, one hell of a hand, Jeremiah Plunkett, and I'm telling you to listen up and give me back my pro wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
For those who don't know, now you know, baby. This is Hot Rod Biggs, Jared, Jimmy Street. We're going to take them to the limit one more time, baby, right here on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one more time to the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast. And I'm here, as always, with my brother from the same father and mother, the Plastic Sheik, Jared Street. What's up, Sheik? How you doing today?
Oh, not much, brother. How about you?
Not much. Just doing the thing. You know how it is. So yeah.
It's my favorite time of the year. It's March Madness time. So, a lot of my time lately has been spent watching basketball for hours on end. But
yeah. You just spent the whole weekend, basically, didn't you?
Yeah, I spent those first 4 days, the Thursday through Sunday, pretty much watch. I mean, as soon as they're on till when they go off, I'm watching them. So.
Yeah, and who you got? Duke? You picking your team?
I couldn't pick them this year. They looked good in their last game against James Madison, but I've got Connecticut. They look the best. I'm not really a Connecticut fan, but they've looked the best. So I tried to pick the winner this year instead of going with my heart. Yeah,
who's your Final Four?
It was Connecticut, Kentucky, which I missed that one, Houston, and North Carolina, which that hurts my heart to put North Carolina in there, but as a Duke fan, but they've got a good ball club. I mean, it's nothing. You could not like a team and still realize they've got talent. So
yeah. Well, I know one team I'm not pulling for, and that's NC State, but that's a whole other ball game, whole other reason for that. And if you know, you know. We'll just say that. But anyway, we got a cool show today, man. Our old buddy Jeremiah Plunkett's coming on the show again, part 2. I love it.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to get to talk to Plunky. I know it's in a way a little bit of a part 2.5 or something like that with him. With the Kojima episode there before with Kroll and him.
Yeah, but really a part 1 for you. So it's.
But yeah, part 1 for me. I was getting ready to say that, but it's my first time getting to chat with Plunky. So.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Am I allowed to call him Plunky?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. That's how most people call him, and I think that would be natural to call him that.
Right.
So, yeah, but he's a good guy. Anytime we can have him on the show, it's always welcome. Back in the early days of this podcast, I was even trying to think of a segment for him to come on and kind of do that, and then that kind of turned into the Mike Jablonski show, and then that kind of, processed itself on down the line. But anyway, Plunky's a good dude. We're excited to have him on. Our last episode, a lot of people really enjoyed that one. I think Gene Ligon surprised some people, but I mean, when you're a guy who committed his life to the pro wrestling business and you did it by any means necessary as far as working wherever you could, there's something cool about that. And I think his story touched a lot of people, and we've received a lot of notes about how much they enjoyed it. Ben Jordan sent me a note last night saying he just finished the episode, and he says, I just listened to the Gene Ligon episode. It was awesome. I love all the different stories that different guys have. Y'all do a great job of getting them out there for all the people to hear. And I said, thank you, man. That means a lot coming from you, Ben. Ben's a good dude.
Ben's one of our favorite guests all time, so it's good to hear that.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite people all time for sure. He's, got a cool story himself, and got to get him back on with Steve and do a Wild Boys episode in the future. But anyway, he even brought up the idea of we should do a Gimme Back My Pro Wrestling reunion and have all the guys we've had come on and, tie it in with the Wolfie podcast and everything. And man, that's a good idea. So do we start the GoFundMe now?
There you go. There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Get going.
Yeah. Anyway, I like that idea. That might be something we could do down the line. We'll see. But anyway, we got a cool one today with Jeremiah Plunkett.
I'm ready for it, man. Let's get to it.
All right. Well, let's get it on here. We'll be right back with Plunky after these messages.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
Finding a new job is stressful. But with Indeed, it doesn't have to be. Just fill out your Indeed profile with your skills, experience, and desired salary. The more you fill out, the better your matches will be. And hearing from hiring managers will be 2 times more likely. Relax. That's your Indeed profile sending opportunities your way. Indeed, the world can work better.
This is Kroll, and you're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling with Jimmy Street and Jared the Plastic Sheik. Be sure to like, subscribe, and view all of our USWO and Saw Wrestling content at Nashville Wrestling Network, exclusively on YouTube.
All right, we are back one more time with the Sheik, and for a third time, I do believe we have our very special guest. And what I would say is give me back my pro wrestling's favorite wrestler, Jeremiah Plunkett. Thank you for coming on, brother. How are you today?
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Let's say 2.5 times, because I think I only talked for half of one of them.
But the show was focused around your match.
Well.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's all that matters.
Hey, it's your first time with me on here.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. We've upgraded in the co-host department here. So we always start every show with the Sheik's favorite question. Take it away, Sheik.
All right. So this question is designed to kind of let people know your influences in wrestling and maybe just who you liked watching growing up or over the years you've just enjoyed watching. If you had a Mount Rushmore, and I always give 4 to 5. If you need 6, go ahead and throw it in there, of like your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers.
All right, so mine's different than a lot of people's because a lot of people, like, they go, oh, it's the draw or the biggest stars. I always do my personal Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
Arn Anderson.
Oh, gosh.
Beautiful Bobby. Tracy Smothers. Jerry Lawler.
Oh, man.
That's a beautiful list, man. Wow. Yeah.
And if you want to throw a fifth that doesn't relate to them at all, but I'm a huge fan of Jumbo Tsuruta, but you wouldn't tell it in a lot of my work. I mean, maybe some because he's more old school All Japan, but
yeah.
All the other ones, like, I steal liberally from.
Yeah. You know, where we've had a lot of guys that have done All Japan on recently, I've inadvertently watched a lot of jumbo matches. You know, Tommy Angel, Gene Ligon, Joel Deaton, those guys, they've all wrestled in that. And Jumbo was incredible, man. Super incredible.
Jumbo had such a crazy trajectory of his career. Like, you know, he was the chosen student of Baba. And
right.
He was just like the young, plucky, upstart wrestler. But then once, you know, he's the one who shined up Misawa and, you know, and Kawada and all the pillars. So, like, he was right before the big takeoff of All Japan going into Noah. And like where he's just the grumpy old guy at the top of the mountain trying to fight all these young guys off is just bitter, mean, nasty bully Jumbo was my favorite Jumbo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I mean, going back to the rest of your list, not to cut you off, Jared, sorry, but you've actually worked on shows with 3 of those guys, right?
I've worked on shows, definitely Tracy. I've wrestled Tracy. Bobby Eaton's managed me before. I've been on shows with Lawler.
Yeah. See, I thought so.
Yeah, and I've met Arn, but no, I've never done any shows with him.
My spot.
Yeah.
No.
I'm always the Arn Anderson to Jimmy's Ric Flair. So it's
exactly. Yeah. He's always been my double A, except he's Jared. But anyway, that's a great list. And honestly, on any given day, that could be my list. That could be Jared's list. That could be anybody's list, because those guys are just. I see. Even though Lawler basically was the king of the territory, no pun intended, those guys are all workhorses. You know what I mean? Those guys could literally work with anybody and have a good match. And that says a lot about actually you too. I feel like you're one of those guys that could pull a good match out of just about anybody, man. So
I was always told that's the meaning of the job.
Yeah.
Which, come to find out, it's to get over, and that's sometimes not, it's easier said than done. But if you can have a match with anybody, you can stay employed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's no doubt. Yeah, I mean, that's a great Mount Rushmore, and I think that starts off the show very well. So our next question, and this show's going to be a little different since we've had you on before. We're going to kind of touch on some things, but honestly, we're just going to have fun with this one and hopefully entertain the people. So the very first question I always start with is, tell us a little bit about your younger days. I know a lot of these, but go ahead and tell the people where you were born, where you went to high school, what sports you played in high school. Tell your younger days story.
So I was born in a town called Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I was about to say a small town, but it's not a small town anymore.
No.
I went to 2 high schools. So when I first went into high school, I was zoned for Blackman High School, and then 2 years into high school, a high school opened like right down the street because the city was growing so much that they had to go ahead and build another one. Blackman was only like 3 or 4 years old, and they had to build a whole new school, and it was Siegel High School.
Wow.
At both high schools, I played football. That was always my sport growing up. I played some baseball when I was real young, but that was boring. I was the kid who was out in the outfield just like staring off. Especially during like coach pitch.
Yeah.
None of these kids could hit it out there. So I'm like playing in the grass and stuff. But I remember I was playing because they just moved you wherever in coach pitch, because none of us are really that, there's a couple good kids and then everyone else is just kind of there to do something.
Yeah.
But they moved me to catcher, and someone tried to steal home, and I just ran them over. And I was like, I like this contact thing. So I started football after that. So I played football all through high school. When I went to Siegel on top of football, that's when I started amateur wrestling.
Nice.
And I was decent. I was a state qualifier. I wasn't great or anything. I was probably around 500, maybe a little over. But that was and I guess that's actually where pro wrestling started too. Around then, probably around high school, got into the backyard wrestling.
Yeah. Jay Phoenix.
Even before then, it was JP.
Even before then. Well, what was it? JP Dangerously. I love it. I'm sorry, I forgot that. That's my bad. Yeah.
In my mind, I was Paulie's nephew.
Nice.
That's what I was going to ask. How were you related to Paulie there?
Yeah. I guess when he did his run through the Memphis territory, he got around.
Yeah, that's a crazy story that, I've heard some things about how there was going to be WCW was going to come to USWA and it was going to be basically what it was for the WWE, not soon after that, but that Eddie and Paul cut the deal off once they found out that it was going to happen, and they tried to get it killed. It's a crazy story. We talked about it on the Kevin Lawler episode. But anyway, yeah, that's cool. So when did you start liking wrestling? Do you remember, what was your first memory of wrestling?
I can remember it being on when I was really, really young. And like, I know I had, like the Hulk Hogan stuff, Wrestling Buddy. And, I had an Ultimate Warrior, like booties that had his head on the toes of them. So crazy stuff like that. But
yeah.
Did you have those too, Sheik?
No, he's probably wanting to buy them.
I'm looking on eBay for them right now. No,
dude, that'd be rad if they were there. That'd be crazy because I vividly remember those. But like really falling in love with it was when I discovered Memphis wrestling because it had a different feel to it. I always watched it. Like, don't get me wrong. You know, Saturday morning after cartoons, then you'd have the like syndicated shows and stuff like that coming on. And I just remember flipping through and catching Memphis wrestling. And I'm like, what's this?
Yeah.
And it was just, it was lower budget, but it seemed more raw and real. And like they broke out into fights and the fights seemed believable. The promos didn't, they weren't, let me tell you something, brother. They were, Lawler cutting somebody down, Dundee cutting somebody down, Dutch cutting somebody down, them getting in a fist fight. There was blood. That was my ECW before I discovered ECW.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, Memphis really is the OG hardcore company, you know. It's the OG a lot of things, but and that's the exact same thing I think Jared and I felt when we saw Mid-Atlantic and we saw Crockett on TBS. It was definitely different. It wasn't as brightly colored, and it had I remember seeing Wahoo McDaniel and the Italian Stallion wrestling, and I was like, oh my God, why can't I stop watching this? And I loved Wahoo, and when it comes down to it, though, I definitely understand what you're saying because it seemed like WWF was almost like a cartoon basically to us at that point, versus
a cartoon that we loved, but
yeah, of course.
Well, and in the early 90s WCW, same way, that's when they had all the young Pistols, which, love both the guys in it, but come on, man, can't be the Southern Boys. That's when they started getting really weird with things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Norman the Lunatic.
Yeah, you got Steve Armstrong and Tracy Armstrong. We always joke that he's the Step Armstrong. So
they practically always said that.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was your start in wrestling and like your first match, maybe first promotion you worked for and everything like that? Okay,
so little backstory to get to that. So I thought I was going to play college football. But I played offensive line and stopped growing at 5. So there's not a whole bunch of 5'10" offensive linemen, especially for bigger schools. I did get a couple scholarship offers, but they're to private universities, which even after the scholarship, I would have been paying like $10,000 a year to go. And, we were barely middle class. So, mom looked at me and was like, I'm not paying $10,000 a year for you to play football, which I understood. So that's when I was like, okay, well, let me look into this wrestling thing. So I would go to local indie shows on the weekends. And, man, I had no idea. I probably could have Googled, but, the internet was still new-ish in 2001.
Yeah.
And so I'd just go to local indie shows, and as the guys were on the way to the ring, I'd ask them if they trained people. And that's how I ended up hooking up with trainers. Me and Mike Woods buzzed up, and Lee Condry. It was mainly Mikey and Buzz. That's who I spoke to anyway. Lee had the ring at his house, so Lee became a trainer by default because he was there. He would throw his 2 cents in. I trained from February 2005 until, well, I don't want to say until July 2005 because I trained after that as well. But I had my first match July 23rd, 2005. I was a fill-in. Lee had somebody who wasn't going to be able to make it to his show, so I was a fill-in in the main event. Strangely enough, I was a member of a heel group called the Black Stallions.
Nice.
Nice.
In which I was the only Caucasian fellow. It was me, D'Angelo, and the Psycho Medic.
Yeah.
And we were taking on Lee Condry, GQ, and White Trash. Ooh. And the match was a tornado tag, falls count anywhere, hardcore match. So I got color. My first match was slammed on thumbtacks my first match, and took a finish through light tubes my first match.
Oh, my God.
And I did not become a deathmatch guy because of that.
Right. Yeah. Man. Wow. So yeah, great intro there. And so you could have stayed that path. Obviously, you could have stayed that hardcore local worry about your next $10, payoff, and you could have stayed that style. But you knew probably, I would assume that you knew you did not want to stay that style, right?
Well, A, yes. B, I wasn't getting paid for that.
Ah, well, fair enough.
Yeah, I didn't get paid for that. After the match, I went and took a shower and then was getting hurried up to come and take down the ring.
Yeah, exactly.
And was picking light tubes out of my back for 3 days.
My God.
But no, I stayed there for about 6 months. And it wasn't all hardcore stuff, but they were a hardcore kind of
focused company.
Yeah, kind of like, so every month they'd have what they called the chaos match, and it was everybody on the roster, all the referees out there, and everyone's just fighting in the entire building, and it's elimination. Last person standing gets a trophy type thing. They do that once a month, but they would always have some kind of gimmick matches. I know I did my first chain match there. I did those chaos matches. I did a whole lot of craziness, but the normal matches weren't always like that. In fact, I remember one time, because I was trying to go totally opposite, I was wrestling a guy named Slade, and we had this idea of doing like a pure wrestling rules match, which that crowd did not give a crap about.
Right.
They're like, what? Do a punch. Well, we can't. That's not in the rules. That's stupid.
They've got rules to this stuff.
Yeah. We were trying to do the whole, had them announce a rope break. We only got 3 of them and all that stuff. And it was just too much. Just too much for that crowd.
Yeah.
So I was there for probably about 6 months. And then Buzzed Up was going to Columbia to start working there for Shane Morton. And he brought me with him. And that's where I really started learning stuff, started making, when I say making money, not netting any money, but like getting an envelope with, some dollars in it at the end of the night. Yeah.
That's good. And thank the world of both of those guys. And man, I keep saying it, but we got to get Buzzed Up on. Yeah. So, we're going to kind of veer off the path of the normal questions, and we're going to, because we have had you on before, I want to kind of ask some different questions, because I tried to think of some questions, and I told Jared, let's think of some questions we've never heard him answer. And also, just interesting stuff we can talk to about these topics with a wrestler. So I want to start, and this is kind of almost, this could be any part of your career, but the question what's one thing or a couple things that you've learned from someone like Tracy Smothers or Bobby Eaton or somebody that was a super respected vet that you always make sure to pass on to someone that is listening to you? What would you say is one thing that you've learned?
So from Tracy specifically, because Tracy had so many, like, his lessons, a lot of his lessons were in like little catchphrases. Yeah. Right. And sometimes they're just stuff said to be funny. But, he, like another thing, the one thing he'd always say, like, you'd be going to a town and you'd pass some big house or whatever. He'd go, see those people? They don't care that we go to town to make tonight.
Right.
They don't care that we're 3 hours away from Evansville and running late, and hopefully we'll get paid, but they're probably not going to draw.
They don't care that brother got a bump,
Yeah. What was it? He goes, they're just trying to care if they want cheese crackers or peanut butter crackers in their lunch tomorrow. That's all they care about.
Exactly.
So that was one of the things about Tracy, that is like in real life, no one cares what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like the normal people don't understand or care what we're doing. So if they have an opinion on it, why do we take any credence in what they have to say? Which is funny, because Tracy's also the same guy who, if you called wrestling fake, he'd pull your eye out. So, you know what I mean? So,
right, exactly.
It's funny that he gave that advice. But I don't know, man, Tracy was always big on the whole, and I know this isn't in video, but, you do this, hold up 2 fists, I'll do this, hold up 2 hands. That's all we need. We can work to 100 if we work with that.
Yeah.
It's not, wrestling is not that hard overall. And, so the wrestlers are the ones who overcomplicate it.
And to me, Tracy, it's just a shame, we lost him, and for no other reason other than the fact that we lost a great human being. But I'm sure that hit you pretty hard, right? Losing him. Extremely.
I got the call pretty early. Actually, I think, if I remember right, I think Buzz smartened me up when he died. And, like, I had to call Chase. And you know how tight they were. So having to be the one to tell Chase, and like I had to tell a lot of people.
Yeah,
and it was a morning of making phone calls that I did not want to make. It still hits me, man. I'll find myself going down a rabbit hole of Tracy Smothers videos on YouTube, and laughing, crying, going back and forth.
Yeah, man. Yeah, there's a match that I think it was in WCW he was working, and I shared the video. It's been a while back now, but man, he was just, his storytelling ability was on par with some of the very best ever. You know what I mean? He could just tell a great story, and he was just so incredibly talented. But the funny part is nobody really got to see his super funny part unless you watched his ECW stuff, which was very humorous and stuff, but you never truly got to see the funniest parts of Tracy. One of my favorite things I've ever seen Tracy do is the Bobby Eaton and his match in IWA Mid-South, where they get the riot going and Bobby would just dip on him.
Tracy's been having time fighting the fans.
Exactly. And Bobby, you'll be like, where's Bobby at? And Bobby's in the back. Oh man. Yeah.
Oh, hey, that actually brings up a story, and it's kind of skipping ahead. But
that's okay.
We were in Carrier Mills, Illinois. Burt Prentice would run they do a festival up there every year, and that's Mike Rapata, the Colorado kid's hometown, which is funny. Colorado kid from Illinois. But so that's his hometown. So they do the big festival and have wrestling on the square every year. So I go up one year. I believe this is 2009, and we're in some tag. I forgot how the match was, but I believe it was a tag. But it's me, Sean Schultz, and Tony Lucchesio, and it's Steve-O and whoever he tagged with or whatever.
Yeah.
These people believe it's real, and there's no barricades or anything because it's in the middle of there's a carnival right next door and all this stuff, right?
Yes, I've worked.
And they're surrounded.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You've done the Carrier Mills, dude?
Yeah, I definitely have. Yeah, it's crazy.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about. And did you guys dress in the coffee shop?
Yes, we definitely did. Yeah.
Okay, so this will all make sense to you. So match is over. We look around. There's no Sean, and these people are rapid. So we're going through the crowd trying to find Sean, fighting off people, covering up, whatever. We can't find him. We finally give up. We slide into that coffee shop. He's sitting there talking to Burt Prentice. We're like, where were you? We've been out there for 5 minutes trying to find you. He goes, dude, I ran straight to the back as soon as the match was over.
Yeah.
I'm like, we've just fought the entire town.
Oh man, I'm so glad you brought that up because I'd forgotten the name of the town that we worked in the center of this place with this big carnival going on or whatever, the fair or whatever. And yeah, I'd forgotten the name of that town. So I'm so glad you brought that up. But I know it was a long weekend and Burt was bringing a lot of the Porter guys up to work.
Now, Burt would run Metropolis every now and then because he got a company that was running there prior. Chaos Pro Wrestling kicked out of their place in Metropolis. They would run the Baymont Inn up there. Biggest rip about Metropolis, though, is as you're driving in to see the statue, there's a grocery store called Big John or Big Jim or something like that, and that statue's bigger than the Superman statue. And it's on the way to see it. I'm like, what a rib.
Yeah, that's yeah, you're right. Oh my gosh. Okay, well let's go into the next. Jared, go ahead, ask your question.
All right. So you've talked about some of your hardcore starts there with not really your thing and some of the crazy matches that were involved, but talk about some of the craziest guys that you've ever worked with or worked around in the business.
Oh God, there's a guy, he doesn't wrestle anymore. And it's unfortunate because he was really good. His name was Lone Star. So Lone Star, as you can tell by the name, native of Texas, he played center for the Kentucky Wildcats. Oh. Big guy, had a tank that wouldn't quit though. You couldn't blow him up.
Oh, wow.
And he could go and he'd take huge bumps. He would do whatever. And he was up there. I didn't have a whole lot of crazy matches with him just because he was on top of the cards. I was starting out. I was real young. I did wrestle him a few times. I do remember he would always have matches break down into a brawl because he thought that was really exciting. And I kind of took that from him too. Like, you start out wrestling, but it should devolve into a fight. Yeah. I remember we were fighting in Lewisburg, Tennessee, and we got into the brawl, and we're brawling a little bit on the outside, but it's mostly, I'm mostly just listening to him and selling for him because he's, I'm 5'10", 220. He's a, former UK center. He's huge. And I just remember he goes, backdrop me. I'm like, we're on the floor. There's 12 people in the crowd. And he just comes running at me. So I'm like, oh crap, and bend over and I backdrop him. And like, I don't know, he never, here could be 12 people in the crowd and he's not taking a night off. He's going to try to give them everything. Which I see both sides of that, right? Like I see, you don't want to cheat him, but you can also save your body if it's not a big crowd. But no, Star was nuts. I wrestled Gypsy Joe numerous times. I think age took a lot of his physical ability crazy out. Mm-hmm. But this is also the same guy. He was convinced, he took a liking to me, and he was convinced that I knew how to do the old knuckle, split the eyebrow open.
Oh my God.
Because Joe didn't like to use a blade. Right. And I was like, Joe, I've never done it. And he goes, oh, and he walks me through it. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll give it a try. And I'm punching. His head's calcified. He's gotten color so many times. His head's just nothing but scar tissue. And I'm punching and nothing and nothing and nothing. And you'll probably have to bleep this. But he looks at me. I go, Joe, I can't. My knuckles hurt. And he's like, oh, you pussy motherfucker. I made a barbed wire. And like, I go and like hold barbed wire against his head. And he just takes it and jams it in his head and rakes it across. God. And he looks at me again and goes, you pussy. So he was crazy. Star was crazy in a different way than Joe. Joe was doing this at 70 when he was wrestling me. So that's probably crazier than anybody else I could name.
Yeah, no doubt. You weren't there the night of the New Jack match, were you?
I was not. I don't know if I was in the business yet. I can't remember what year that happened.
Okay, that might have been might have been too soon. I know I wasn't in yet, and I know I think that was at Freddie's auction house or something.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I've definitely wrestled in that building, and know just about everybody who was on the card that night. But I was not there for sure, and I can't remember. Like I said, I can't remember what year that happened.
Yeah, I can't either.
It all blurs together. I think it's
yeah.
I love when you look online though. They talk about like how New Jack beat the crap out of Joe, and I'm like, I see that a little differently. I saw Joe take a baseball bat to the head and get right back up.
Exactly. Yeah, there wasn't no crap getting peed out of him.
Yeah,
I mean, we've often heard if Joe was 20 years younger, New Jack probably wouldn't have
been a different story.
Yeah. It would have definitely been a different story. I'm not saying the fight wouldn't have broke out, because New Jack ain't scared of nobody, but
yeah,
I don't know if it would have been what it was.
Right. It would have been much more even, and, because when he wrapped his hair up, that was the problem. And then, man, it was, yeah. But then what was it that Mike Porter breaks it up and says it was something in football? What is that? Unnecessary roughness or something?
Oh, yeah. This match was stopped for unnecessary roughness or something like that.
A hardcore match was stopped. That's Mike Porter, y'all. If you've never known Mike, that's exactly Porter right there. So, yeah. Oh, man.
And now a word from our sponsor.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle.
Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue. Subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
This MailChimp-verific jingle is brought to you by MailChimp.
MailChimp your marketing with AI and more. Advanced automations to connect to your store. MailChimp your marketing and boost your clicks. Multi-channel campaigns now with SMS. That's lit.
MailChimp your marketing today with the #1 AI-powered email marketing and automation platform, Intuit MailChimp. #1 based on publicly available data on competitors' customers. Plans vary. SMS available as add-on. Visit MailChimp.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all. And all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
If you went on a road trip and you didn't stop for a Big Mac or drop a crispy fry between the car seats or use your McDonald's bag as a placemat, then that wasn't a road trip. It was just a really long drive. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's.
This episode is brought to you by San Pellegrino Ciao, a new kind of flavored sparkling water. The kind made with real fruit juice, a pinch of Sicilian salt, and the sparkle of the Italian sun. With no added sugar and just 10 or less calories per can, enjoy. With love, from Italy. By San Pellegrino Ciao now.
Well, that kind of leads me into us working together in Nashville. And I know we've talked about this before, and I don't want to beat a dead horse. Let's just say that. But, working together, man, was a lot of fun for me. I definitely appreciated the time we had together. I was in a weird spot in my life. We've talked about this a million times. But, to be able to work with you and Drew, and I remember the first time I worked with you, I think was at a benefit. And I remember Jeff Daniels was there, and I think I managed you and Dyron or you and Jablonski or somebody like that. And that was the first time I think I took a road trip with you, if I'm not mistaken. And we met, and I just remember, man, it was always cool after that. I just was like, I see a kinship in this guy. And, it's so funny because you were a veteran to me and you're younger than me. You know what I'm saying? And so at that time I was a newcomer still paying my dues. And I remember, you're kind of becoming a well-oiled machine at that time as far as, the things you were doing. And I remember learning things from you guys, the young guys, and because I related most to you because of my time in the business, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, so it was a lot of fun, man. And I will say this, managing you and Drew on the Untouchables, if I had it to do over again, brother, it would have been a totally different story now, man. But hey, we don't have that time to take back, do we?
No, there's definitely nothing to take back. I wish that run would have went longer. I really do.
Me too.
Just with Drew had, which I mean, he's got kids now and stuff like that, and that's why why he left anyway, because he had a kid on the way. But man, that run was so good. And I think if we could have kept it up, we could have done something, just because we were really well oiled as a tag team.
Oh, y'all are incredible. And I'll go back and watch the matches now. I think a couple weeks ago, I watched a match with you guys in it. And I was like, man, it's tough for me to watch, even though I enjoy it. It's tough for me to watch because I don't feel like I was at my best. And so I see what I could have been managing. And it was just a bad time for me. And like I've said before, I was coming out from under the Omar gimmick. I didn't know how to be just Jimmy Street. And when you hide behind a gimmick, you can do that. And actually some people I'm sure have done it and gone on to very successful things, hiding behind a gimmick, not being able to show their true self and letting out that character. And when that character was taken off of me, and I've said it a million times, I was happy about it. I did not understand what it took to be me. And I remember there was one promo, and I felt so incredibly bad about it. We're standing there on the wall at Saw, and Drew started, you took it over, and then I was to say something to wrap it up, and I screwed it up like 6 or 7 times, and y'all were doing it so awesome, and you like turned around, and you were like, all right, man, you say this, we got this, and it was like, boom, and I got it. And I just remember feeling so bad because y'all were like, y'all were at your, not say prime, but what I'm saying is y'all knew the whole story and you knew what you were telling. And I was just like, blah, blah. Oh, wait. Yeah, sorry. My bad. Let's do that over. And I don't know if you remember that time, but there's actually a video of it on Saw, on the Saw channel and Nashville Wrestling Network, by the way, go subscribe. But I just remember I was so embarrassed because I was just thinking, man, I'm screwing this up so bad. But the shoe was fun, man. Getting to use the JJ gimmick,
I was sitting there thinking the One of my favorite finishes we ever did was I'm taking the Terry Funk teeter-totter.
And you're hanging there so long, too. I felt so bad.
He slid me the shoe. He pulls me back up. I clock him in the head with it. I still love that. It wasn't. We didn't do it the smoothest we could have done, but it still got the point across. Because with the Washington Bullets, I remember those matches are fun.
Oh, dude, what you all against them they could put that on AEW right now, and it would be an incredible match. I'm telling you, y'all worked so well with them, and it's got to be partially them, right? They were great. So
no, they were. It was weird too because they were like really big spot guys, and me and Drew, you would think we were, but we called all that stuff in the ring,
right?
And so like it was a weird mix.
Yeah.
But it always worked out well. I wish, too, we would have stuck together just because, like, we had that long feud with Nick and Carrie.
Yeah.
But they were young. You know what I mean? I would love to redo it again with, like, seasoned Nick and Carrie.
Yeah. Do you talk to Drew still much?
He will hit me up every now and then. It went for a while, a couple years. He kept going, man, I'm getting the itch. And I'm like, I can get us some matches booked. And then, like, I wouldn't hear from him again. And he did that. Did that twice, I think, and then after the third time, he said it, and I'm like, cool, because me and Carrie would immediately start being like, who can we get this match with?
Yeah,
you know, who will book this match so we can do it again? And then when it just stopped happening, we're like, all right, he's getting the itch, but life's not going to let him pay it off, so it's not going to happen.
Right. Well, we miss you, Drew. Hopefully everything's. Yeah, man. And hopefully the family's doing good. And you know, in the regard, he won, man. He got the family. You know, you've won too. You got a beautiful wife and a nice home you're building there and putting together such a nice life for yourself. But, you know, Drew won, man. A lot of guys would say, looking back, you know, we had Gene Ligon on just recently, and he said, you know, if I would have stayed at my job teaching, I would have a pension now and be retired, you know, but I stayed in wrestling and now I'm still working, you know, so there's a part of that you got to say Drew actually got out and won. Even though he gets the itch, he still, you know, he got what he wanted, you know, and that's good. Can't blame him.
And I'm sure he's getting around a lot better than I am most days. So.
Yeah, but man, every time, and no disrespect to FTR, I do think they're one of the great tag teams going right now. Absolutely, no question. That's unanimous, I'm sure. But every time I watch them wrestle, I'm like, man, I could just see the Untouchables doing that right now, man. And you know, maybe that's grandiose, maybe that's crazy for me to say, but I see that you guys were kind of doing that Arn and Tully thing, and you know, now they've kind of tried to turn it. You all were the perfect blend of the Midnight Express and the Brainbusters, essentially, or Arn and Tully, if you want to say it. But they're kind of taking that over now. But y'all had that, you know. So
I mean, that was Midnight Express, Heart Foundation, Tully and Arn. That was where we got everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was our Mount Rushmore. I think there might have been a little Bulldogs in there, but I don't know how much we actually did of theirs.
Right.
You know, but that's the people we watched.
Dude, that is the Mount Rushmore, man. You know, other than rock and roll somewhere in there, that's the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, well, there's some rock and roll when we worked babyface.
Right.
That was our deal. Whoever took the heat had to do the roll into the hot tag.
God, I love that. Yeah, it's so good.
We did that one night before rock and roll. Like, we were the match before then. And I came to the back, and Ricky goes, man, you're stealing all my stuff.
Oh man. I remember managing Norte in a match. Your now new neighbor, man, Chris Norte. Yeah. I remember managing Norte in a match with Ricky Morton, and I remember I had already managed Jermaine or Seven, and I'd already managed Dyron, right? And so usually in the Omar Alcazan Corporation, at that point, if I'd gone out twice, which is actually more than I think should even happen nowadays, you know, Dyron would go out and represent the corporation with Norte. Well, when I found out that Norte was wrestling Ricky Morton, I know that I stood in front of the entire locker room and said, I am managing Chris Norte tonight. That is happening. I don't care who I've been out there with, because he's wrestling Ricky Morton. And I'm sure a couple guys are like, man, that's about the markiest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I said, I don't care. I am managing. I don't know that I'll ever get this opportunity again. And I didn't. So I'm glad I did it. But going out there with Norte, and I remember the last thing Ricky said to us as we walked out, he said, hey, Bubba, just don't hurt me.
Yeah.
And Norte, you got to know, I know you know Norte, but everybody else, Norte was not going to hurt anybody. That is not, that he's a very safe worker. He was not going to hurt anybody. But just to know, and I could just imagine Ricky saying that a million times to different guys, you know, and man, a lot of fun. A young Kerry Morton running around, me having to keep an eye on him as Ricky's in the match. And the coolest thing Ricky ever said to me, and this is not my show, so I'm sorry I'm stealing everything, but he said, when you came out there, I wish we'd have give you more, man. I wish we'd have done more with you. And it's like, brother, you didn't even have to. You saying that means as much to me as us doing it, you know? So that was important.
Ricky's awesome. It was so funny. I don't know how long it was before Chris wrestled Ricky, but I'd had my first match with Ricky because I remember calling Chris and be like, oh my God, like, blah, blah, and like describing the match to him. And I remember Chris calling me after your match with him, like the next day or something, or maybe a couple days later.
Yeah.
And he told me verbatim that Ricky did the exact same opening he did with me.
That's awesome.
I'm like, man, that's his go-to apparently, and which I have, and I think Chris has also. Well, he didn't wrestle much anymore, but I think we both really stole it.
Yeah. Hey, that's awesome. So, what's up, Chris? Good to see you're back in the state. And go ahead, Sheik.
All right, so Bucky, if you had a time machine, I'm big on these what if situations. If you had a time machine and you could go back to any point in wrestling and wrestle somebody, like who would that be? And like give me kind of a little setup of like why it would be them.
Hackenschmidt in Madison.
Yeah. so I can grab that headlock and just. I don't know, man. I think I would have liked early '80s Memphis, like not 88, 89, anything like that. I'm talking like 82, 83.
Yeah.
Who would I work? I'm trying to think of my timelines to make sure I'm about right. You know, and because I never had the match with Lawler, I want to say Lawler, but honestly, I feel like I would have had a better match with Dutch around that time because. That's also the time that Dutch was rivaling Lawler in a lot of towns as the biggest babyface.
Yeah,
you know, he's one of the few ones who put a dent in that. You know, Lawler's the top babyface. Oh, and they just had such a different style. I think I would have had more fun wrestling Dutch.
Yeah,
Dutch could brawl, Dutch could wrestle. You know, I'm not saying Lawler's a one trick, but like. You're not going in there and wrestling with Lawler to start it out. You can do some, but you know Dutch would take you down, ride, you exchange holds. You know, he was a better wrestler per se than Lawler. And I don't know, man. Dutch's promos were so good.
Yeah,
you know, Lawler was great, but I don't know, Lawler was always trying to get the quick one-liner in,
right,
to sound cool, and Dutch just said what he said.
Yeah, Dutch still says what he says.
Yeah,
you got to love him for it, man. He's one of the most real dudes in the business, and he doesn't care. You know, he's at that point now where he's like, you know what, I'll say what I feel because that's how it should be. You know, and
I will say I don't think every idea Dutch has ever had is a good idea. Because one time I was running around with him and he thought, he said, we need to put a gimmick on you. I think you should be the great-great-grandson of a Western gunslinger.
Uh-huh.
And he was serious. Cap guns, cowboy hat. And I'm like, I don't think I could do that.
James Storm is doing that maybe, but.
Well, as soon as he said the cap guns, that's what I thought was like indie James Storm. And I'm like,
Yeah. Who would it have been? Earp or Billy the Kid or somebody like that?
He wanted me to keep the name.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to say that it was in my family and wanted me to go real Western gimmick. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's me, man.
Yeah. I mean, he put the Brody gimmick on Josephus, right? Am I right about that? Or did he?
That he did. Yeah. He saw him, and this is after Joe had started getting kind of big and it's growing his beard and hair out. And
yeah.
I mean, I've never seen anyone look closer.
Oh, no. He nailed that one for sure. You know, I met Joe, and we've told this a million times too, but I met Joe at the Springwater Supper Club one night, and he was still doing the Shelby Street Brawler look because he was still, well, that wasn't a look. That was his look. You know what I mean? Because he's starting to do camera for wrestling at that time. I remember meeting him, and he was like, man, you ought to come out and stuff. And I'm like, well, I will. And we did. And man, you know, witnessing matches, and I can't remember if you were on that show or not, but I remember Wolfie was. I remember Kid Cash was on the show, and we would see. You know, that was a great little spot, the Stadium Inn, man. You got to love the Falks. So
Stadium Inn, it was something.
Yeah, definitely something for sure.
It's so weird that like a crack hotel in the middle of downtown Nashville had so no. That's not a Jared. That's not an exaggeration.
I know. I'm just. It's just so funny to imagine a wrestling show going on. Right. I know, but from everything I heard, I know that's true. But
there was a sign on the front desk that said "No prostitutes and drug dealers, take your business elsewhere."
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they thought it meant there. They were like, "Oh, okay, just around the corner."
You mean upstairs?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, man. Yeah.
Hey, it's Paris. You know, I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Jif peanut butter. It's that Jiffing good. It doesn't really need advertising. So instead, enjoy the calming sounds of the ocean. Jif. Ooh, it's that Jiffing good. Get your Jif at Jif.com.
Are you a pro wrestling fan? Well, stop by Captain's Corner, where you can get autographed photos, cards, magazines, and figures from all of your favorite wrestling superstars of the past, present, and future. You'll also be able to participate in live signings in the weeks and months to come. Make sure to stop by Captain's Corner on Facebook and give us a holler. Remember, cheers to the working man.
Yeah, so this one's going to kind of lead into a question, but my wife told me to ask this question because she likes this question. I think it's a good question too, so I appreciate her input. But she said, "What is the most famous person in your cell phone?"
Oh, I think God, I don't know. I just exchanged numbers with Bobby Blaze this past weekend. I know that's random, but
yeah. Let's go. Might need to snag that from you.
I've got Dave Milliken in my phone.
Yeah.
We'll randomly chat, especially if I have a belt question. I'm like, there's nobody else I'd rather.
No, you can't. Yeah. I ask him questions as much as I can. Yeah, he's the one.
EC3, that's up there pretty good,
dude. I think that one. Yeah.
I've got Ricky in here.
Right.
So I guess it kind of depends on
What do you mean by
what you like in wrestle? Jerry Lynn.
Yeah. Jerry's great.
EC3, as long as you've got him talking more than WWE, let him talk on the main roster.
Right.
Geez, right.
What a messed up deal that is, man. They blew a chance with him.
So. I can't believe they let Moxley, Ambrose, whatever, basically bury him when Moxley was leaving. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
No, and I don't think they had. I don't think they knew what they had. If we're being honest, I got Nick Aldis in here.
Yeah,
Simon Diamond. I mean, so I guess it kind of depends. Probably EC3's former 3-time world champion. So yeah, we can go there.
But dude, Nick Aldis is on TV, not even cable. He's on network television every Friday night.
Dexter Lumis.
So Yeah, Dexter. Oh man. Oh dude, a great
He's not
story
in there
about
under that. I had to remember his WWE name.
Plunky. Do you remember the night I got hard weighed by Sam? I mean Dexter.
Yeah, when it was it the leg drop?
Yes, it was was it the Alabama Jam? Is that what he did, or was it just his leg?
The big top rope cannonball leg drop.
Yeah, dude. I remember. I think it either you or Crimson hit me with the Macho Man elbow first, and then Sam came off and caught me and I turned my head up at the wrong time, and he busted my lip wide open. He felt so bad about it, and I thought it was hilarious. First of all, that was like my last night for Porter, so when I had all that blood, I just spit it all in the ring. I was like, "There you go,
I think
buddy."
it was all of our last nights at Porter.
It was. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
That's when I was helping book.
Right, because I said, "Bro, help me book."
Was it? I think it was me and Sam working against Jeff and Crimmy.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I think
so. You would have been managing probably Jeff, and you've been managing Jeff and Crimmy.
Right,
I assume because that's.
So then it was you that hit me with the elbow, or you hit me with something off the top rope.
If I came off the top, it would have been an elbow because I'd given up the leg drop a long time ago.
Yeah, man. But Sam had a beautiful leg drop, man.
Oh, yeah.
He is, if you want to say underused, that guy is one of the most underused, underrated guys out there as far as talent. He's just that gimmick is so cool. I love that creepy, is he good guy? Is he bad guy? Is he what is he here for? I think that gimmick is so, and it could go so many different ways, and he's uber talented, and plus he's a great artist too. I mean, a Jerry Lawler quality artist. You know what I mean? Comic book level.
I've got a picture hanging up in my office that we were sitting at OVW just BSing, and he sketched out while we were talking.
I remember that.
And handed it to me. So it's sitting up in the office. But yeah, dude, he's so talented in a lot of different ways, and that's how. If I remember the story right, I believe he told me early on when he was working in Indies, because he trained at Team 3D from Florida.
Yeah.
That he was working, his part-time job was working at Universal as one of those like sketch people.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And that's what he'd do to, as Tracy would say, as a shoot job to support his wrestling habit.
Yeah.
But he's doing real good now. He just opened a wrestling school. Down in Florida. It's him. Tom Latimer moved down there, and he's one of his coaches.
Yeah,
and John Davis.
Man, that's
called
another
the Hatchet Pro Wrestling School.
Okay, so you opened up a couple questions for me there. One, is he not with the Fed anymore?
No, he still is.
Okay, I thought so. I was hoping that was the case. And then Tom Latimer is another guy that I cannot believe they've missed the boat on him, man. I'm glad for the success he's having in the NWA. I think he gives the NWA a legitimate guy that not only looks and acts the part, but is a real deal dude. I just feel like they missed the ball on him too, man. I can't believe that. But
well, and some of that, and Tom's talked on it in interviews. He had a lot of demons.
Sure,
that he had to beat. And,
so did the owner of that company. But we'll get on that.
Fair enough. And Tom's demons are nothing like that.
Right.
But
yeah.
But now Tom is one of the most talented guys I've ever. And like we've never wrestled each other. We were both training at the Tried and True School when that was open. He was doing the advanced class, I was doing the beginners, and like one day we just went and chain wrestled for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh, I forget that you're from Britain and you can do all this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He goes, yeah. He goes, they always book me in this crazy stuff, so that's what I do. He goes, but I can do this stuff.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Oh, dude, he reminds me of like a Paul Orndorff, Ronnie Garvin kind of style a little bit. Just a tough guy that can chain wrestle and can put a hurting on you if he needs to, and he just has that vibe about him. I don't know if you get that, and it's okay if you don't, but, Tom, to me, I just feel like is a somebody they've missed the boat on. So speaking of all that, obviously you know them, and you know them because you work for NWA. Okay, let me ask you that. How did you get to the NWA? And I know we are skipping around, and that's okay because this is the show we're doing. But how getting to the NWA? Tell that story.
So a little backstory on that. In 2019, I had hurt my neck. I don't even know how I did it, but I had hurt my neck. So I took from like took 3 months off, I think. And went under like a lot of chiropractic care and spinal decompression and stuff like that. So I come back in February. I have a match. Okay, cool. My win was bad, but other than that, I did all right. Have a couple more matches, and then the world shuts down.
Yeah.
And, so here I am coming off, I don't want to say a serious injury. It's not like I broke my neck, but I compressed some discs. You know what I mean? And I'm just getting, or not married yet, but I'm, going into getting married. And it's just like, maybe wrestling's done. Because I didn't think wrestling was going to come back from the shutdown.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sport that requires an audience.
It does. Yeah.
You can play football in front of no people. It's really hard to wrestle in front of no people.
Right.
So I was kind of like, I don't want to say I'd come to terms with being done, but I'd come to terms as much as I would allow myself with being done. But I'd still go down. Carrie Offel was running a school in Tullahoma. And that's when I started losing the weight and stuff. And I was doing that for health reasons, not even for wrestling. And I'd go down with Carrie just as a fun way to do cardio because I still hate to run. And I was working out one day and I got a phone call from a New Jersey area code. And I know absolutely nobody from New Jersey, so I ignored it. But then I got a text from that same area code. And it's like, hi, this is Pat Kenny. I want to talk to you about working with the NWA. So I immediately rolled out of the ring and, made a phone call. And it turns out, so Pat replaced Dave Lagana as head of talent relations when the NWA came back after the pandemic. And back in 2012 or 13, I believe it had to be 12, maybe even the end of 11. I had done a gut check for TNA, and it's one of the live event ones where it's basically just like paid tryout type thing. And Pat was the guy who was over that gut check. So he had remembered me from all the way back then, which blew my mind. But yeah, so I went down there, and as soon as I saw Pat, he shook my hand, and I went to introduce him and reintroduce myself because I don't think anybody's going to know me. But I was like, hey, Pat, I don't know if you remember, but and he goes, oh no, I remember. That's why I called you. He goes, I asked Crimson if he still had your number, and I called you right then. He goes, I liked you then, but I didn't have any power to give you an opportunity. Maybe I can now. And that was April 2021, I think, maybe February. It was early in 2021.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, whenever they came back.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when you got there, did they kind of say, hey, look, this is what we need from you, this is what we're expecting? Or was it just like, hey, here's a match, and we'll, if you get another one, it'll be here, that kind of thing? What was that initial, like your first match in the NWA and all that? How did that go?
So actually the matches I had aired out of order that they were taped. But the first match I had was actually against one of the kids I helped train, Mims. And all we were told is 50-50 babyface up, and that's it. And we gave him a match. It was all right. Mims has come a long way now, but he's still pretty green then because he started taking bookings, I think 2019.
Okay.
So he didn't get a lot of reps, and then coming into this, but we got through it. And I was just, I don't know. I think I've always just kind of been how did Steve Austin put it? A mechanic. This guy can go in there and have a good match with people, and that's kind of been where I've been as far as with the NWA. Is I'm just kind of a
carpenter.
Yeah, kind of a carpenter guy, and which is, like I said, it keeps you employed. Right. But that's really been all any direction I've ever been given. Got to do a little bit of stuff with the Ill Begotten. Even before it just was down to a tag team of me and Alex. It was like the land of misfit toys, guys who didn't fit in anywhere else.
Right.
And it ended up becoming a tag with me and Alex. And then when they split us up, it was, just kind of back to being a mechanic.
Yeah. Yeah. You and Danny and Deals, you gotta put him over, man.
Oh, 100. He's actually, he may have suggested me because he was working backstage at the time. But I know Pat remembered me, but like Deals is the reason a lot of the people are there.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know what I mean? Because if they're in an area, if they're in the South and that's not Florida, and they need some people, they ask him.
Yeah.
But he's going to get them reliable people who are going to get the job done and impress. He's helped out more people than a lot of people recognize. Like, I don't think a lot of people understand what Danny Deals, not only what he does backstage and now on commentary. He jokingly calls himself Pro Wrestling's 5-tool player. But like it's legit. He manages. He can work production. He works merchandise.
He has good promos. He's a good stick man. So
he can bump. He's getting a little. When we had that Beelzebub Bedlam match or whatever it was at the Chase, and he had to take that big choke slam from Judas. I think he's like, these bumps might be limited, but other than that. Like he can do everything. Like he's a trained wrestler. A lot of guys don't know that because he's always managed. But, he's a trained wrestler. He doesn't do it a lot, but he did when Alex hurt his shoulder. Though all the ill-begotten tag matches we had ended up becoming Alex being the manager and Deals doing the wrestling. That's who I finally got my match with Rock and Roll Express, and it was me and Danny Deals.
Hey bro, however you get it, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And he's I always think he's one of those guys that's very intelligent about keeping himself important to a company. You know what I mean? And he did it with TNA forever. You know what I mean? Yeah. And a lot of people may not know that. I mean, anybody that works in our area knew that. But when it comes down to it, I mean, he's not joking about that 5-tool deal. He's a very talented guy. I always knew that if he was around and he was going to be on a show, very rarely did we ever work a show together, but when he was around, I was like, man, I got to get my game up because this guy, and that's a good thing for anyone to have someone who makes you want to work harder, right? I mean,
and that's how he's made himself invaluable. Is he's an extremely hard worker.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like a lot of guys in wrestling are going to do the bare minimum, but he always goes above and beyond. He helps everybody out. And, man, one of the best people on the road, we just did a shot in Huntington, West Virginia this past Saturday. So, that's about, with stops and everything, like 6 hours.
Yeah.
Man, we were able to do a turn and burn because we had, we stacked 4 people in the car. But, like, Deals just came up to hang out and sell merch, and Kevin Martin came up to hang out and sell merch. But Deals is so funny and just tells such good stories. But that 6-hour drive felt like it took no time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like we got done with the show and we had a hotel. Like, they're like, you got a room if you need it. And we're like, we can turn and burn. and we did. And it was great. We were all home Sunday morning. Got up a little late, I'm sure, but we're all home by 4 a.m. Sunday morning, and we're fine. We're laughing. There was one point where everybody in the car was like gasp laughing. You know what I mean? Like your face hurts. You're all trying to get your wind, and you're all just laughing so hard.
Yep. Your cheeks are burning and your sides splitting. Yeah. Please stop talking so I can breathe for a second. Don't say anything else, y'all. Let's get some break.
I'm like, I'm trying to drive. Just.
I do remember you being a great wheelman, though, Plunky. You always got you there safe, so that's important, right? That's another important part of you.
I love being in control on the road. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Like I took an hour and a half off this last drive, and the whole time, like I couldn't go to sleep.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, it's 2 a.m. Can someone else take over? Sure. And I'm in the back just wide awake now. And I'm like,
right. Might as well take a drink of coffee and Red Bull. And that's funny. But good for you and good for him. And I always enjoy seeing y'all as a tag team together and you and Alex and him. And it's a shame y'all aren't doing it on the bigger stage because I do think that is an incredible tag team. But maybe sometime people will get their head on straight and figure out that.
That's right, it's the talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
Hey y'all, Jimmy here, and that was episode 6 of the Best of James Rock Street Productions, with the first half of episode 57 of Jeremiah Plunkett Part 2 on Gimme Back My Pro Wrestling. Plunky is the man. We've been friends for over a decade, and I'm constantly impressed by his always improving work. He's currently the NWA Mid-American Champion. Check him out on the NWA's programming or a promotion near you. He's my boy. You can hear the full episode over on @GMBMPW or Gimme Back My Pro Wrestling wherever you listen to podcasts, or simply click the link in the notes below. We hope you've enjoyed a look back in the archives of James Rock Street Productions. Check us out next week to see what else we have in store. Until then, you know what to do. Follow @GMBMPW and @JamesRockStreet everywhere. Peace.
With a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life.
We'll see you later.
This has been a James Rock Street production.